Let's talk about property investment. For so many of us, it feels like the golden ticket to financial freedom. But for others, well, it can turn into a minefield of costly, life-altering mistakes. So, what's the difference? What separates that dream from a total disaster? We're about to break down the biggest mistakes investors make and give you the strategic framework you need to avoid them.
I mean, you know the dream, right? That vision of building this awesome property portfolio, generating that sweet passive income, and just knowing your financial future is locked in. It's a really powerful motivator, and hey, it is absolutely achievable. But that's only half the story.
Because on the flip side, for every amazing success story, there's a really painful cautionary tale. A dream that just sours into a financial nightmare, with consequences that can literally follow you for decades. The single biggest thing separating those two outcomes? It's not luck. It's not timing. It's research.
And that gets us right to the heart of the matter. The number one foundational mistake that basically fuels every other error an investor can possibly make. Just diving in head first without any kind of solid strategic plan.
You know, the property investment expert Jane Slacksmith puts it perfectly. She says that investors are constantly tripping over the exact same, totally preventable pitfalls. It's this repeating pattern, you know? The excitement of the chase of buying something just completely overshadows the critical work of planning first.
So, what do we mean by this foundational flaw? It's when you start browsing real estate websites before you've even defined what you're trying to achieve, what your budget is, or what your long-term vision looks like. Without that roadmap, you're not really investing, you're just reacting. You're flying blind, getting overwhelmed by all the options, making emotional calls, and ultimately, you're just not in the driver's seat of your own financial future.
Okay, so this lack of a plan, it leads directly into some incredibly common and seriously costly traps. Let's break down 3 of the biggest ones you have got to watch out for.
First up, the absolute classic, the emotional overpayment. This happens all the time, especially with first-timers. You get swept up in the heat of an auction, or you just fall in love with the backsplash in the kitchen, and poof, all the hard data goes right out the window. You end up paying way more than the property is actually worth, and your investment journey starts off already in the red.
So, how do you fight that emotional pull? With cold, hard data. This is the stuff that protects you. You have to be analyzing recent sales, understanding the area's growth, knowing about any big infrastructure plans, and figuring out who is actually living and renting there. This is what turns a wild guess into a calculated, smart investment.
And that leads right into the second major pitfall, the suburb mismatch. This is a big one. You might find this gorgeous one-bedroom apartment for a great price, right? But if all the data shows that the area is full of families looking for 3-bedroom houses, guess what? Your beautiful apartment could sit empty for months. The key thing to remember here is you are not buying for yourself. You are buying for the local rental market, period.
All right, this third trap is a particularly sneaky one. It's the temptation of buying a property off-plan, before it's even been built. Developers are masters at selling these with this really tempting pitch about guaranteed future growth, and they just bake that supposed growth right into the price you pay today.
And I read this story once that just brings this danger to life so clearly. A woman at a barbecue was talking about how she bought a house and land package miles from where she lived, based entirely on this kind of developer pitch. She totally admitted it. She did zero independent research on the local area, just trusted the promises completely.
And the consequences? They were just devastating. As soon as newer, shinier homes popped up nearby, the demand for her place just vanished. The rent she could get didn't come close to covering the mortgage, and the financial stress got so bad her family actually had to rent out their own home just to stay afloat. A total nightmare scenario. And it all came from that one mistake, a lack of independent local research.
So yeah, it's pretty clear that doing no research is a recipe for disaster. But, and this is important, the opposite can also be a problem. Getting lost in endless, unfocused data leads to what they call analysis paralysis. You get so overwhelmed you can't make a decision, and you end up missing out on fantastic opportunities. The key is finding that sweet spot right in the middle.
So how do you find that balance? How do you get it right? Well, the solution is to stop the chaotic, endless searching and replace it with a disciplined, strategic framework. This is how you go from being a reactive buyer to a proactive, strategic investor.
And this 4-stage framework is your roadmap. See, stage 1 is all about you. It's your foundation. You define your financial goals and what a successful property actually looks like for you. Then in stage 2, you zoom out and analyze the broader market. You're looking for those big growth drivers like jobs and new infrastructure. Only after that, in stage 3, do you start looking at specific properties and evaluating them. And finally, stage 4, you bring in the pros for an independent review. It's a logical funnel that completely strips the emotion out of the decision.
So as we start to wrap this up, what is the single most important idea you need to walk away with? Really, it all boils down to your mindset and your method.
Building real, sustainable wealth through property, it's not about chasing the latest hotspot you read about in the news or just going with a gut feeling. It is built on a solid plan and objective, data-driven analysis. You have to treat it like a serious business decision, not like buying a lottery ticket.
I want to leave you with this last powerful reminder from Jane Slacksmith. It's so simple, but so urgent. Do the work. Do your due diligence. Because at the end of the day, it's your money and your future on the line, no one else's.
So that leaves one final question for you to really think about. When it comes to your own financial future, is your strategy built on a solid foundation of research? Or are you just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best?